It's actually our responsibility to understand that we're different and show up for ourselves in the way that supports us, and then trust that the people that are correct for us are going to be attracted to that energy that we're vibrating out.
Welcome to the Human Design Projectors Society podcast. I'm your host, Zette Harbour. Join me as we explore and dive deeply into the brilliance, the beauty, and the power of what it is to be a projector. Welcome, Celeste, to the Human Design Projector Society podcast. I am so delighted to have you with us. Please tell our viewers about you.
I'm Celeste. I'm a 3/5 self-projected projector. I live in Western Australia. And for the last 3 years, I am actually just moving into my 4th year now. I have been deconditioning. Human design came into my life and I quit my job and just focused solely on deconditioning and working with healing my trauma and healing my attachment wounds and working with human design. And that's pretty much been my life path since then. Yeah.
That is huge, right?
Yeah.
To recognize how valuable it is to just give yourself the spaciousness to really give yourself over to this deconditioning process. Obviously, not everyone feels that they're in the position to do that. And some people maybe aren't.
Yeah, I've been really lucky that the universe has supported me in this process. It's not been easy in a lot of ways, but it's my journey. This is what I need to do, and the universe is supporting me to do that. And not everybody is blessed to have the opportunity to do that.
Just that you're willing to really recognize that and allow it to carry you forward, right? Because that can be really hard. There's so much pressure and so much energy in the world that wants to take us in a different direction.
That's actually what the big shift was that I had today, is about listening to taking on the unsolicited advice and guidance of others and allowing that to narrate my life. And in doing that, it actually stepped me into my not self and made me feel like I was broken and not enough and that I had to fix myself instead of allowing myself to be enough as I am.
That is an incredibly powerful observation, and one I think so many projectors can feel in their own experience. Yeah,
I noticed that there's a lot of uncertainty for projectors, a lot of, for myself anyways, but energetically I feel it from a lot of other projectors, is we've put our authority outside of ourselves and we're wanting other people to tell us what we should be doing and learning to keep coming home to ourselves. And instead of forcing ourselves upon other people and allowing them to force themselves upon us, it's really challenging. It's really hard, especially because of all of our openness, that we don't have our own sacral center and we just want the sacral juice. It's so addictive.
So true. And our uniquely designed aura, generators with that open, enveloping aura, like, sure, everything kind of rains down in and they do feel things. However, for a projector, because we are literally projecting our ability to sense and know within the energy field, the energy body of the other.
Yeah.
As Ra has said, it's more like we're like eating them, like we need to ingest and digest them. And so like any food, if it's not healthy, the process of digesting that is going to be very unhealthy and uncomfortable. Whereas when it's healthy, great, we're nourished, right? We're enlivened by that. So we are uniquely susceptible to the qualities of the energies of the others around us. And yes, with the openness, but boy, just being able to just zoom in there and
and essentially become another person. And I feel that so many projectors are brought up in traumatic environments and households, but also households where they're not seen and recognized. We have a very low bar of what is healthy and good for us. And it's like that unlayering and clearing out all of that wounding and conditioning to see our worth and to raise our bar and to not settle for the unhealthy energy.
I was listening to a talk where Linda Bonnell was speaking to a group of folks, and when she came to discuss or share observations about the projectors, she said, "You guys are not here to compromise." And yet, in the material and in our own lives, we know we're the first to compromise. We're the first to say, "Oh, that's okay. I'll accept not being recognized all the way." And yet, it's that interesting thing that we are designed in such a way that we want to compromise, and at the same time, we must not. So,
in saying that, though, because I have a fearful avoidant attachment style, I'm not sure if you know about attachment styles. Are you aware of them?
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So I've got, I feel like there's three people inside of me. There's like my authentic self, then there's my wounded masculine and my wounded feminine, right? And I feel, for me, anyways, and the people that I've spoken with, the deconditioning journey is very easy for the mind to take information about our charts and use it to stay stuck in our not self, right? And so what my mind did was it took so much of my chart, the fact that I'm a self-projected projector, the fact that I've got a lot of openness, that I have a personal perspective. There's so many different elements of my chart, all of my individual circuitry and my integration circuitry. And it basically, my mind told me that I'm here to be on my own, and I'm here to not, essentially it kept me in my wounded masculine, in that avoidant energy, right? And it kept me I was quite, it allowed me to keep walking around with kind of like contempt and like looking down on people and keeping myself isolated from people and having this expectation that people were here to meet my needs and make me successful and recognize me. And the last 6 months has really been like a lot of ego deaths around that, and actually seeing, oh fuck, actually I'm here to be love, and that's not just the love that I was expecting for myself. Loving myself, yes, but not from a narcissistic place, from a place of self-compassion and kindness, and then also giving that out to other people and learning to see that being generous and being empathetic to other people and their needs actually is part of that love experience.
Beautiful. I am excited to see where those things also reveal themselves in your chart, because they always do.
Yes, they do.
All right. So very briefly, I do like to just let the viewer see, and the guest too. This is my chart because I want everyone to know this is the lens through which I am seeing human design, the world, myself. And again, we are both self-projected projectors. I do have the defined ajna, throat, and the G. And what it hopefully lets people know is I'm going to have unique and individual insights that can be organized to form opinions that help people make sense of their story as I live out my ability to inspire as a creative role model in order to be empowering. And that my motivation is innocence, color number 6, and that the absolute highest, best way for me to be in an experience is to be innocent, to be free of motivation of, I want this to go a certain way, or free of agenda. And so with that spirit, I have no attachment to where we go on this journey. My innocent desire, we'll laugh about that later when we talk about transference, but in my innocence here, I am providing my presence as a way of recognizing you, so that as we open doorways into you, that you feel that recognition and it increases your connection to yourself and your self-awareness and self-love. So with that, here you are, Celeste. Here is your chart
I am.
Yes, and it is the connection from the G to the throat with no other definition below the G that makes you the self-projected projector. And let's pop over and see that your motivation is color number 3, which is desire.
The motivation is something that I am still challenged by.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's because I have still spent. So I guess as I'm talking, I'm getting clarity on my knowing of the motivation. So for me, it almost feels like my desire is to thrive. My desire is to have to be securely attached and to have loving, supportive, empowered connections with people. And to get there, I have to clear out all my trauma. And so it's almost like that's my desire. And the way that then I see plays into like my personality profile, which is the 3-5, is that I'm basically here to experiment and try all of the things to get myself to that secure state, that healed state, to live the life that humans are here to live, right? To be happy and healthy and thriving, and to get there, and then to use that 5 to be like, all right, everybody, this is where I've got to. These are the things that work. Don't do those things. This is what you need.
You are designed to be a leader. And I love how you described it's like to tell people, okay, that's not going to work. Do this instead, because us third lines, I'm a 36 profile. We are all about, let's just try it out. What can happen? What's the worst that could happen? Right. And go, oh, that didn't work. And here's why. Let's do something different. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what a beautiful layering of those elements that really come together to give you the fullness of a genuine leadership.
I don't know how I'm going to get there or what it's going to look like, but I know that it's there, and the universe is giving me everything that I need to get there. I just have to keep experimenting with what comes into my world and then get rid of the shit that doesn't work, basically.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. I feel like you've totally captured it so elegantly and in a way that I know that other 3-5s or people with desire can really connect to those words, that you know that it's there.
Yeah, I can feel it. And it's the more that I clear out my conditioning and center into myself, the more that I can trust that knowing. In the past, I felt like a crazy person because the world is always telling me that's lunacy and that I'm wrong and that it's folly and wishful thinking, and that's just not the way the world is. And it's, for a very long time, it was really soul crushing to have these knowings inside of myself and to have the world tell me that I'm wrong.
Mm. Oh my gosh. So very true. Yes. Yes. We do live in a world that has a lot of not self. Leave it at that. All right. Just to open up the doors in you, for instance, your personality sun. I'm very interested in discovering or learning from you about your experience of this light that you're here to bring to the world. This is the light you're here to shine. This is your destiny. So I'd love to read these words and then let your intuition, your intuitive knowing speak. So gate 1, the creative, the gate of self-expression, creation as a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. And it is a third line, the energy to sustain creative work. For you, it could either be experienced as the deep need for self-expression, or materialism disrupts creativity. So having that door opened, please tell us a little bit about what your sense of your own experience of this light is.
There's so many elements of my chart that I can easily explain. The gate 1 has been not one of those. surprisingly, because it is such a large part of who we are. I've been really creative my whole life in a physical, tangible sense. And so when I found out about human design, I, in a way, expected that's what it was talking about, that I'm here to be creative, I'm here to create things, I'm here to do all of that kind of stuff. And I don't think that, I don't like saying think because I don't have definition up there. I'm coming to understand that's not correct for me, and that the expression is actually about simply the expression of my authenticity. And the more that I clear out my conditioning and my trauma, the more my authentic self is allowed to shine out into the world. And that is my expression of creativity. I'm here to show the world that it's safe to be authentic and inspire others to then work on their own shit, basically, so they can be authentic too. That's what my knowing feels like when I think about that. And it's really comforting. I have actually recently, I've tried almost every form of creation, painting and crochet and knitting and pottery and everything. And I've had all of these projects and things that I want to do and create and make. And it's actually really stressful. And I consistently don't feel like I have enough time to do all of these projects and make all of these things. And then that kind of compounds into almost feeling this pressure to rush through the project so I can get them done, so I can get on to the next one. What I've been sitting with lately is that maybe I'm doing all of these creative projects because I think I should, and to prove to people that I am a creative person. And I don't actually enjoy a lot of these creative outlets. I'm just doing them because people tell me that they're good for me and that I should enjoy them. I've started sitting with each of the creative modalities that I have in my world right now and just feeling into what feels supportive and not. And most of the things I actually don't really want to invest my time and energy into. And so at the moment, I'm just mainly playing guitar and I'm learning the guitar and I'm just loving it. The sound is really therapeutic. And I've heard Ra talk about he played guitar as well, and he had individual circuitry as well. And he said that creativity, especially music, is really supportive for the individual circuitry because it allows us to process that creative wave, essentially. And I do really notice that if I'm struggling, if I pull out the guitar, even if I just strum the strings with my fingers and just don't even play it, just make noise, I can feel it resonating in my body and it just immediately shifts stuff for me. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I just want to say that these are called an exaltation and a detriment. And of course, we all have an attachment to the word exaltation being great and detriment being bad. And that's not how these are intended. They are merely possibilities of how this energy can be experienced in you. It's just that when we follow our strategy and authority, this is something I heard directly from Linda Bonnell, that when we follow our strategy and authority, we're more likely to experience the exaltation. Again, not because it's better or good, but because it will feel more fulfilling. It will feel better, right? And so when you talked about all those forms, those material forms, see, materialism disrupts creativity, material forms, because we often think, oh, materialism, that just means I was going to try and make money. But no, we're talking about materialism, right? It's
like
that
tangible.
Yeah, bringing something into form, into material existence, and how in your experience that did disrupt your creativity, it sounds.
And I notice it because my body, my mind will start telling me like, oh, we need more art paper and it needs to be bigger and we need this thing and we need that thing and oh if we want to do and it's just like buying more and more and like but if I go to playing the guitar it's that's all I need is the guitar. I don't need anything more. And it's
the deep need for self-expression without regard to a material manifestation or a material outcome, right? That particular instrument allows you to, without any, is because sounds are, we hear them and then they're gone. So they're not really materialized into some kind of form. How beautiful. And I'm sure you've already heard, but like individual circuitry is auditory, whereas the collective is visual, tribal is touch and smell. So it makes total sense that particularly because your son is in an individual channel, so that's auditory, and your only definition is in the individual circuitry, that is auditory as well. So how lovely that you have made this relationship with this way that you can experience your beautifully creative self-expression and the vibrations of it and the sounds of it that empower you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful gift that I'm giving myself. And I am really glad that I'm feeling worthy of persevering with it.
Yes. And that it's the light you're here to shine in the world, even if no one hears you, right? I know that doesn't sound like it makes sense to people who are going, what do you mean? But the reality is that the vibration you are emanating into the field of consciousness is much more powerful than any physical material manifestation of creative expression. If that physical manifestation is not correct for you, if it is not the light you're here to shine, then the absence of a material outcome for your creative expression is more powerful in influencing the vibration of the field of consciousness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Because if playing guitar is correct for me, even if I'm just sitting in my room and playing for myself, that affects how I feel, that affects my vessel, that affects my aura, and then that affects how I impact the world whenever I interact with anyone and anything in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's so, I've always struggled with play. I've always been a very practical person. Everything had to have a purpose, and that's not playful. And so I feel playful when I'm playing the guitar. So again, it's a really nice gift that I'm giving to myself.
And so the way you're going to ground and balance that light of that deep self-expression, the creative expression, is through gate 2, the receptive, the gate of the direction of yourself, the self. So receptivity as the primal base through which any response is determined. So receptivity is really the ground through which any response is going to be decided or determined. And this is the root of action. And line 3 is called patience, the teacher that never stops being a student. The exaltation is too many words, but perhaps just the recognition that receptivity is a lifelong process. I think we can really look or listen to the words you've shared already and hear that you are that person. You are absolutely manifesting, bringing into form the experience of receptivity as a lifelong process. And that as you do, then your creative expression is nourishing, nurturing, enlivening for you, and as a result, emanating out into the world. And then potentially in detriment, higher knowing that cannot wait and demands expression. So perhaps there are times when you feel like you are demanded upon to express, and it's through your sense of your higher knowing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Gate 2 is the most yin of all of the gates. And I've spent most of my life pushing in my masculine, in my gate 1, not being in my body, not resting, really just avoiding that part, having a lot of shame around that feminine energy and seeing it as weak. And someone shared a quote with me once, and it was, "In the stillness, the feminine whispers the next step to the masculine." And that hit really deep for me, because what I notice is if I don't take time to stop and be and just sit with myself and connect into myself and connect into my spaciousness and my knowing and my connection to source, the actions that I take are simply a waste of energy because I'm actually not taking steps that are correct for me. I'm doing what I think I should be doing, and I have 3 left-facing mind arrows and a right-facing body. And when I get too focused, I lose sight of the bigger picture and of where I'm going and of my purpose and my direction. And so every time I can stop and connect into myself, I get that next step. But I need to be in my body, and I need to actually stop and reconnect with myself to receive the next step, the next part of that direction that's correct for me.
Thank you for sharing that. Your words, beyond the meaning of the actual words, the resonance comes through them. I don't know if you ever heard of the idea that it's the spaces between the sounds that carry as much
weight.
Yeah. And meaning maybe, or impact or something. Like it isn't the word, it's the space between the 2 words. And I feel somehow that really applies to how you've just expressed your experience of this gate and this receptivity and the lived experience of being shamed or feeling shamed by others, that this receptivity it is how you bring into form your light. Without it, your destiny isn't fulfilled, right? Your light doesn't shine. And yet, if you've received through this receptivity messages that your receptivity is useless or pointless or shameful in some way, right? What a deeply wounding experience that would be. And as a third line, just having the world not only say no, but I know from my own third line life and my first 30 years being a double third line, it's just like the world keeps dropping boulders or brick walls on you for who you are. And it can be incredibly demoralizing. And thankfully, learning our design, for me especially, that has lifted so much of that old clutter and all the old broken pieces of those boulders and brick walls, so that I could see my experience without that heavy layer of doom.
It's a good word for it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my mum is a ego-defined manifesting generator.
Okay.
And I grew up in a household where I have the most openness. Everybody else is generator or manifesting generator, except for one of my other sisters who's a projector, but she has 7 of the 9 centers defined.
It's a very different experience. Yeah.
We're complete opposites. It's insane. But I grew up in a household where worth was defined by doing. And everything about my body is passive. I have a right-facing body. I have all of the openness. I don't even have personality gates that are defined in almost any of my motor centers, except for my spleen has personality gates. But like everything else it's all open. And I spent my whole life, over 30 years, trying to prove to the world that I was enough and worthy through how much I did. I just never stopped. It was just insane. So the last 4 years has been me reconditioning myself basically to do less and to slow down and to stop. And now that I'm more comfortable with resting and sleeping a lot and having bed days and allowing my body the space and the time that it needs to just chill and not really do very much, the world is reflecting that back to me. But in the beginning of the deconditioning, there was so much discomfort from other people around me being weird and sleeping too much and resting too much and not doing enough. And at the time, it was very challenging for me because I wasn't strong enough in myself. Like, I'm doing this weird human design thing that nobody else knows about. And I don't know, even though, like we said in the past, I know where I'm going, but I can know where I'm going and still not trust the journey, especially when I'm in my not self and I'm still learning the ropes and I don't really have other human design support networks around me.
Well, and
And
also I think third lines, at least in my experience, it is hard to trust life.
yeah,
Life has no promise that our experiments are going to feel good, that the result, in fact, what it really promises is that a lot of it's going to be like, oh, that didn't work.
yes, and it has been. And that's really, it can be really shameful, especially when you're brought up to believe that mistakes and failure
Yeah.
is bad and wrong.
Yes.
Yes, so there's been all of that shame for me as well. But what I've realized looking back at the interactions that I had with people when they were shaming me for slowing down and for resting and for eating on my own and doing all of these things that felt correct for me and necessary for the next leg of my journey, is that they were just triggered because there was a part of them that knew that they needed to be doing what I was doing. And they weren't ready for it and they didn't have the capacity to do that. So they just projected their shame onto me. And I can see that now. At the time, I couldn't see it.
Sure.
But it had nothing to do with me. They were just,
gosh, yes.
Yeah.
When we learn that it purely is the mechanics, when we can really experience that, oh, wow, that person who was criticizing me or judging me or shaming me or trying to dominate me or control me, I look at the mechanics and I go, oh, I still don't like them. But I don't necessarily, I can stop. But I can stop thinking, oh, what an asshole.
Yeah.
What I can think is, wow.
Oh, that's why they're an asshole.
With those mechanics and that amount of not self-conditioning, I get it. That wasn't going to go any other way. And also then I can stop blaming and shaming myself for somehow not having done a better job of, especially projectors, we are really so interested in how can we get that other person to be more of who they are, to be happier, to be more successful, to know themselves, to love themselves, to, we want to lift others up. It's just who we are. And so when the other person simply can't be lifted ever, then it can really feel like a failure on our part, because our destiny as projectors is to advise and guide, particularly the generators. And so even as a child, your nature understood that your role was to advise and guide this manifesting generator. And the manifesting generator absolutely was not willing to recognize you and accept that advice and guidance. And you yourself couldn't recognize you because you didn't understand that you're not like them. You don't feel like them, but you're just literally not even like them. So to free ourselves from any judgment, blame, or shame that we failed to fulfill our destiny as a projector in making sure the other was uplifted or enlivened or brought into greater awareness of themselves, right?
That's why the invitation is so important, because that's otherwise we're just going to experience so much bitterness, not only inside of ourselves, but we're then going to experience that projected at us from others, because we're trying to change people that are not ready or don't have the capacity or don't want to see what we can see. One thing that really, I found this to be really mind-blowing when I was thinking about the family dynamics and growing up is, so I have G definition and throat definition. That's all I've got. I can read about an open G until the cows come home. And I felt like for most of my life that I had an open G because of how conditioned I was. But I still don't know what it's like because I have that definition and I have so much definition there, right? Every single generator has a defined sacral, they have no understanding of what it's like to not have a sacral. So they're just going to assume that everybody else has the sacral as well. And we can explain to them what it's like, but they're still never going to understand what it's like. It's actually our responsibility to understand that we're different and show up for ourselves in the way that supports us, and then trust that the people that are correct for us are going to be attracted to that energy that we're vibrating out.
Absolutely. Oh, beautifully said. And what you're pointing to is the purpose of this whole podcast. It's to allow us as projectors to be really supported and just given such permission to self-recognize. And I think as self-projected projectors, self-recognition is a thing for us, more so than maybe an emotional or a splenic or mental. I don't think it's incorrect for the other types of projectors, but I think for self-projected, it's our area of expertise.
Yeah, and I know that, like, for self-projected projectors, we are speaking from our soul. So I think for all of us, when we experience rejection, it can be really painful, but I'm still understanding the projection field. But the projection of the 5 line that I tend to get is, it's a, what can I give to the other energy, right? But it comes across the experience that people that I pick up energetically from people, and the way that they project themselves onto me is very, for men, it's that I am like the perfect woman, basically.
The savior.
Yeah. And I get it a lot with men who are already in relationship as well. So it's, I'm that, the savior, the woman that they've been seeking, that fun, carefree, whatever it is that they're experiencing from me. And from women, it's almost like I'm the person that they wish that they were. So then I get a lot of judgment and criticism, and most of this is unspoken, but my body is so receptive, and because of the projectedness, and I'm aware of like attachment styles and all that sort of stuff, it's so easy for me to pick up on all of this. And I really played into that and identified with those roles for such a very long time. And the more that I'm clearing out that conditioning and stepping into my authentic self, I'm able to see that even though those projections are still in a way love-based, they're quite superficial and almost materialistic. And the 46 is the only gate that I don't have in the G. And I'm actually here to be love, but from more of from a place of empowerment, not from a place of saving or fixing.
Yeah. I want to bring your chart up so everyone can see what you're describing here. Yes. Look at all those activations. My gosh. And that your defined channel, like this 10 is the gate of self-love and the gate of the now. And again, living in an intensely conditioned childhood or home, and as a child, having the 5th line being so acutely sensitive to the projection field, and also having your awareness and truth being just almost pushed right back down your throat, right?
Yeah.
So that combination, I can totally sense how painful that is, and how much not self-conditioning. So your worth, right? How much self-worth you have access to. You're completely open in your solar plexus. So it's not that you can't be conditioned. It's just there's no unique hook that it will catch on every single time.
With that one as well, this is something I'm trying to. The first human design reading that I got from a wonderful woman, but not a projector. And what she said to me was, oh, you have an open emotional center, so you don't have emotions and feelings. And it's not until now I'm stepping into my 4th year now and realizing that I have complex PTSD, which I then experience emotional flashbacks. And it's probably me picking up on the emotional immaturity of my mum and her defined emotional center. And that's been imprinted into my system. But I have been experiencing essentially these emotional flashbacks and this emotion like my whole life and for years, and thinking that I was broken and there's something wrong with me because apparently I'm not meant to have emotions and feelings. And so I'm starting to now learn to have compassion and hold space and kindness for that process and to be with that so I can understand it better. I would love to hear your perspective on it. I just wanted to share that if you look at that whole left side of my body, the right hand side of my chart, right, I don't have a single hanging gate leaning towards the emotional solar plexus. Like I'm either nothing or I'm amplifying emotions.
As far as fully open, I don't have any fully open centers. So I can't speak from a lived experience. I do have a colleague who has shared with me, because she has a completely open ego center, heart center, and her experience is that she doesn't get triggered by issues of self-worth or proving one's worth or being loyal and that sort of thing. And so that may be what you're describing. We all have the chemistry in our body. We can't say that no one has emotions. What you have is a completely open, unfixed, inconsistent, unreliable experience of emotions, particularly emotional waves, because every one of these channels has a waveform. Yes, you are incredibly receptive to the other person who has emotions. You'll live their emotional wave with them and you'll live it amplified, as you were sharing. However, my experience is that this doesn't change the fact that you are a being who can access your own emotions. You can just, and again, you may not feel that way, and I'd love to hear if that doesn't feel true for you. Yeah, please tell me what that feels like or sounds like to you.
Let's see what wants to come out of me.
Hey, something else popped in that I'd love to share, which is
go for it.
Is that what I've been taught is that when you have a completely open center, and as you say, there's not even anything pointing. This is an area that you have mastered in previous incarnations. And so you're not here to learn specific and unique lessons. However, you're still here to feel, to have emotion. You're just not here to be triggered by any particular hook of it. So it's like, this is where you're here for your PhD in emotional awareness is the sense that I've been given.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So that's why, in this lifetime, I feel it seems that the spleen is what I'm here to, that's my school for this lifetime, is the spleen. It does seem that I've, based on the deconditioning journey and the complex PTSD with the emotional flashbacks, that I still need to decondition the emotional center. And I know that when I go into those, everything else jumps in as well. All of the other not self themes jump in, especially the spleen and the fear that then comes up that kind of jumps on that emotional experience. What it seems to be that I need to be working on, that I'm dealing with at the moment, is that I actually have no concept of what normal emotions feel like. I'm either neutral or I'm amplified with the emotions. So for me, it's learning to not be consumed by the emotions when I experience them, because when I do even feel somebody else's emotions, they don't even seem that big compared to the emotional flashbacks that I have. So I feel like when I was a child, I was really taking my traumatized mother's defined emotional center and her emotional overwhelm and amplifying it inside of myself. And that's what's conditioned me. And that's what I'm now having to clear out. And once I can do that, then I'm going to be able to hold space for the feelings of others and not be triggered and affected by them, knowing that they're not bad and they're not wrong, and that they're also not permanent. So instead of trying to reject them and resist them and push them away, because what I notice I do is when I feel that discomfort in my body, when I feel those feelings and emotions, because I wasn't taught how to sit with my feelings and hold space with them, I try and reject them. I try and push them out of my body. And what that actually does is cements them into my body. And then that then affects my digestive system. And because I have calm touch digestion, I then have these emotions that are not mine locked into my body, and that then affects my digestion. So it's this whole process of, like retraining myself to understand that it's safe to experience feelings and to just let them be, and they will just naturally move through of their own accord. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Yes, they're temporary.
Yeah.
You're not designed to have consistent, reliable emotional waves of emotion as part of, certainly for anyone with an emotional channel, that's their center of wisdom, right? It's for them to make correct decisions.
So I just have to trust in the process that there is steps that need to happen, and I have no control over the process of the steps and how that's happening. I just have to keep allowing my body to move me in the direction that I'm here to head in, and trust that I'm going to get to wherever it is that I'm meant to get to.
I could talk with you, what for you would be all night, but
yes, me too.
I know it's delicious and rich. And I also want to release you so that you can then go and be with yourself. I would love, if it feels correct and when it feels correct, for us to once again go into your design and have these conversations and have doorways and windows opened that give you the opportunity to self-recognize, and also other projectors. They will see your journey, they will hear your stories, and they will recognize themselves. That is so powerful. So thank you for being willing to do this here today and be with us. And I look forward to our next time.
Yeah. Thank you, Zette. I've been looking forward to this for so long. This has been fantastic. I'm really grateful to hear all of your insights and wisdom on my chart, but also for the opportunity to talk about it, because I find it's not until I'm invited to share elements of my chart that I understand myself, that I'm like, oh yeah, of course. I see how that plays out in my life. So I know all of it, but it's not until I can express it that I get it. So to have that opportunity in that space to be able to share that, and the hopes that some of what I've shared creates more clarity and calm for other projectors and trust in themselves. That would be pretty cool if that could happen.
Absolutely.
This is amazing. And I hope that we get to do it again, because it's really beautiful.
So I feel the same way. Thank you so much for sharing. Really, this has been a joy. And because of where you are, it's really a gift that you spent this time with us so late in, actually, which is late in the day, but super early in the morning there. So appreciate that.